G'day there guys, welcome back to another episode of r/LegalAdvice. Now I suck at introductions, but let me introduce myself again as your main hubby Markee, and I want you to sit down, relax, chuck a prawn on your barbie, and get ready for some more good content. Now today's episode was posted by user Kamartha, titled, "In California, Grandmother gave my brother and me an equal share portfolio each in the late 90s when we were kids. Brother sold his when they were worth a car. I left mine in, and now they're worth a substantial amount. Brother and his girlfriend want my half now. When my brother was 16 and I was 4, my grandmother set aside a share portfolio for us. As soon as we were old enough, it was transferred into our own accounts, and it was only 4 years later that my brother dipped heavily into his and bought a new Honda. I knew about mine for much longer than he did before it became mine, and watched it grow since I understood what it was. By the time I was given full control, it was already worth a ridiculous amount, because a big portion of it was invested in Apple. And I'm torn on using the funds locked up as they are, because Dad drilled it into me to leave it until they grow until I'm 40-something. I don't talk much with my brother. He's done some stupid things to the family over the years, and I didn't really grow up with him at all, so all I usually hear about his life comes through Dad. His new girlfriend works in law though, and I've received a formal letter from them both that the investments my grandmother made were designed to be used for both of us, not just for me alone. And his was only around $15,000. The number is right, but mine was only worth that at the time that he spent it too. They want half of the value of mine now, and his girlfriend has informed me if I don't give them access, then the legal fees and fines would eat up my half and I'd be left with nothing. The dividends alone support a huge part of my life, and they've saved me a few times. If half of that disappeared, it'd set me back years. I know it sounds selfish, but I'm really used to having the extra income back me up when I've wanted to move. I've lived in 4 states by my own choice, and I want to move and take in more before I settle down, if I ever do. How likely is it that they'll win and leave me with nothing? As far as I know, there was no paperwork, or will, just my grandmother's word. She set up my brother's accounts when he turned 19, but she gave them to Dad at the same time as my brother got his, and Dad transferred the whole lot to me 60 years ago. For my share, I have all the logins, the trading accounts and bank accounts are in my name, and the shares are all solely in my name too. Should I find my own lawyer? And if I need one, what kind do I need? I have an accountant I've used for years, but this doesn't seem like an accounts problem, but a law one. So, Donica1 says, "Okay, I'm a California lawyer. Here is my take solely from your facts. 1. Grandmother has set up a trust with your dad as trustee. 2. Father as trustee distributes title to both of you when you each reach a certain age. The trust and purpose of the trust your grandmother set up is now dissolved. 3. Once you each received control/title of your money, the trust was gone, and the purpose for which grandmother set it up, i.e., so my grandsons would have a portfolio they each could use as their own once they reach a certain age, is complete. And 4. Whatever each of you did was each of your responsibility. If he had taken the money out and won the lottery, he wouldn't have raced over and given you half the proceeds, right? And lastly, you have a statute of limitations defense. If you are both in your mid-20s or older, I assume you're both in your 30s, your brother likely missed any chance to sue you for damages. And really lastly, I'm not even sure what he can sue you for. There is no longer a trust. Sleep well, he cannot take your share. They're bluffing. I work in probate, and what they're trying to do is scare you into settling, even though you don't owe him a penny. P.S. Great job keeping the portfolio. I wish I had your father's wisdom when I was a teenager." Honestly, I think that's some solid advice in the comments. And now onto the update. Good news update. Mostly good news. I worked with my dad and got my own lawyer. I got the timeline of my shares wrong, but it comes out the same. What my brother and I inherited from my grandmother was originally part of my grandfather's portfolio. He was the money-savvy one. My grandmother looked after those after he died, and she personally set up my brother's accounts and gave him control of this part. She didn't do the same with mine before she died. I thought she had already set the accounts up for me and given me control to Dad before passing. Instead, the shares were in her will, and she left everything she owned to my dad, with instruction that what was $15,000 worth when my brother got his equivalent part would go to me when I was old enough to know how to take care of them. There was no trust, she just trusted my dad. My dad did the right thing and set up accounts for me and gave me control 6 years ago. My dad put some of his own shares in too, as an extra leg up. Oh, that's so sweet of him. Dad admitted to me that he'd chewed out my brother last year when he came to him asking for money, and Dad had supported him several times over the years and got to the point that he'd had enough. My brother found out I still had my investments because my dad had used me as an example of how brothers should have been using money. That's how my brother found out I still had my shares and they'd grown. According to all the info my lawyer tells me, I'm in the clear, but it's not going to get to the point of finding that out in court, as my brother's girlfriend was only a legal secretary. I say was because the firm she worked for apologized and informed my lawyer she was terminated immediately. The letter I received from them had been edited to put her name in a position of higher up than it should have been, and some of the contact information had been changed. A week after she was fired, my brother visited me begging for money. His girlfriend is in serious debt, and she took a chance on scamming some cash from me and lost. I felt awful rejecting my own brother over and over, and if he hadn't involved his girlfriend needing an amount well into 5 figures, I might have given him some. The next morning, I found all my tires had been slashed. Screw him, I don't feel bad anymore. The rest of the comments in the previous thread made me realize I don't know nearly enough about what I'm doing with the shares and dividends, and money in general. A lot of decisions that I've made have been with my dad's help, and his advice has paid off so far, but not because I knew it would, but because I had no idea what I was doing and left it up for him. I've booked in to work with a financial advisor to make the most of what I have. Thank you for all of your comments. That actually is inspiring me to talk with a financial advisor if things go well on YouTube. Heck, hope you guys have enjoyed this one so far, that gives me some ideas. And our next post is by user Tin Man for the win, titled Minnesota. I was just informed I have 2 DUIs on my record from 2008 and 2004. I didn't learn to drive till 2013. What can I even do about this? I'm 28. I would have been 13 and 17 at those times. How can something like this happen? I have never been arrested for a DUI or anything similar in my life, but there they are. 2 cases on my record. I don't even know where to start. And update, thank you for all the advice. After some digging, I discovered that said DUIs and license suspensions were attributed to a guy who lives in a different part of Minnesota and has the exact same name as me, and someone inadvertently merged our records. I have had the situation taken care of. But hey, that was a quick story. I'm just gonna read some comments to see what people had to say. So Anti-Fascist, very nice name there. Someone you may know may have used your information to get out of their own DUIs. It could also be a case with someone with the same name and it somehow got on your record. You should contact an attorney who does motor vehicle law about this. Also, check your credit reports. It may not be the only identity theft committed on you. I've considered this. My birthday falls on a holiday on a year that ends in 0, so it's not likely that it's hard to remember. But what can I do about it? Check your credit reports and get a lawyer. Well, that's interesting advice. Ah yes, the pillar for legal authority, Autistic Kitty says, another avenue to check for possibility is whether or not you're a junior. My husband had issues with credit score stuff from his estranged father, who had the same name but without junior. I'm certainly the first of my name. Could be a father or older brother. I suspect my uncle for a few reasons. Not as worried about bringing justice to whoever did it as I am about clearing my name though. Could be a saucy backstory, who knows. And our next post is by user Yika12, titled, I am left freezing cold in my apartment, as I pay more than 4 times the monthly hydro bill of my neighbour. In June this year, I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in Ontario, Canada. My hydro bills were exceptionally high since moving in, averaging around $300 to $400 Canadian per month. I am a student and cannot afford these ridiculously high prices. I am extremely cautious about using electricity because of these high bills, so I rarely use the stove, and I only use lights when necessary. In the summer, I had an air conditioner plugged in, and I would unplug it when leaving the house. In the fall month, when I did not have any heater or air conditioner on for the entire month of October and was away from the house for over a week, my hydro bill was still $320. This winter, I have a small infrared heater plugged in at the very minimal setting of 15 degrees Celsius in the living room. I have closed the doors to the bedroom and bathroom and sleep on the couch beside the heater, as temperatures are getting to the extreme. I turn the heater off when I leave the house for extended periods of time. I do not use the heating provided in the building because baseboard heating would be absurdly expensive. I had made a few complaints to my landlord, whom I have a number of other problems with, and currently have a work order issued for them for other unrelated issues in the unit. I have also called my hydro provider, and they told me that my unit has had a long history of high electricity charges, and all the past tenants have all complained about it. At this point, I just thought that it might just be normal in the area, and that I should give up. The other day, as I was leaving my unit, I ran into my neighbor right across from me. He asked me how I was doing, and how my heating was, since it was so cold outside. Of course, I broke out to complaining about how high my bills were and how cold I was all the time. He looked at me surprised. He told me his bills have always been around $40 to $70. He let me step into his house. It was so warm. The guy had a heater set so high, all the doors were open, and now I'm extremely confused. He let me take a photo of his last hydro bill, the one where it was fall, and I paid $320. The table I made comparing my neighbor's October bill to mine. After finding out about my neighbor's bill, I am convinced that something suspicious is going on. There are only 4 apartment units in the building as we are on top of a restaurant. The third neighbor has also mentioned that their bill never exceeds $80. The fourth I have not spoken to extensively on that matter. I called Hydro again, and they told me they could have an inspector come and shut off the hydro to the unit to see if anyone else is connected to my hydro, such as the restaurant. I am feeling a bit helpless and would like to know if there's anything further that I should do. And if I do discover that my hydro is being bypassed, will I be able to get my money back for all these months? Adding up well to over $1,000 of extra payments. If the inspector finds that nothing else is connected to me, what other possible explanation could there be? Thanks for your help. Edit. Wow. Thank you for everyone who has contributed in helping me solve this mystery. Comments are locked, and I've been receiving a number of helpful messages. Even electricians willing to come by and check things out. Basically, everyone has agreed that my monthly bill makes no sense whatsoever, and that there must be an external factor at play. Like something is connected off of my meter. At this point, it is just a matter of what that factor could be. Some people have suggested it is the downstairs restaurant, my neighboring units, the hallway lights/security cameras. Others have suggested it may be that the hydro is not accurately reading the meter, or the wiring is not properly set up. I have no access to the meter itself to run any of the tests that you guys have suggested, so I unfortunately will need to rely on the landlord for that. Some of you have suggested that I look on my online account for usage since I do not have access to a meter. However, others have said that in my area, data is not fed directly into the hydro company in real time, and that looking online may not give me the answers that I need. I'm still trying to access my online account to see what's going on. I tried to make an account, and it says that my meter number and account number do not match up? Even though I use the numbers from the bill, so I still need to wait until tomorrow to sort that out. When the inspector comes by, I assume he will uncover the underlying cause. I should be getting a call tomorrow, on the 2018-11-26, to figure out when the inspector comes. Since a lot of you have shown interest in what is to come, I will make an update post as soon as the mystery is solved. If for whatever reason I don't get a reduced bill, some of you have suggested that I apply for a government assistance program to help pay the bill. I hope it does not come to that though. And now on to the updates. I have managed to uncover, for the most part, the cause of my exceptionally high hydro bills, averaging $400 Canadian a month in my apartment in Ontario, Canada. Based on all of the advice I received from the original post, Here is what went down after the comments got locked. I managed to get onto my online hydro account and discovered some very suspicious activity. I noticed that each month was consistently high usage. Every month I was consistently consuming around 2600 kilowatt hours. No matter what the month, no matter if I was or was not using air conditioning or heating during the month. I also checked the specific weeks where I was on vacation. I was not at home at all, and everything in the apartment was turned off. I paid around $70 for each week I was away, a total of $140 I paid when I wasn't even at home for 2 weeks. Furiously, I called the hydro company and asked them to look further. She told me that the usage she is seeing is very unusual. It appeared as if the unit is vacant, consistently high consumption without much deviation. She also informed me that an inspector would be coming over any day now. The inspector came to my apartment a few days ago and accessed the meter, which was in the basement beneath the restaurant. I was in school at the time, so my boyfriend was there when the inspector came. The inspector noticed that the plumbing in the apartment for the hot water supply feeding each unit, possibly also the restaurants, were combined. The closest tank in circuit, mine, was doing all or most of the work for the entire building, feeding hot water to all the units. To provide this further, the hydro company closed the cold water intake to our apartment, and we were still receiving hot water, meaning the next closest tank in the circuit, our neighbor, was feeding our hot water. Also, our hot water tank was feeding the cold water intake of the nearest hydro tank, the apartment next to us. Jesus. After emailing the landlord multiple times and waiting days for a response from him, he finally only came because now one of our neighbors was not receiving hot water. We noticed that he was in the basement doing something, probably fiddling around with the plumbing. After he left, we stopped receiving hot water ourselves. I had to shower at the neighbor's house yesterday because of this mess. Yesterday, my boyfriend confronted the landlord when he came to see what's going on. My boyfriend recorded the entire conversation in case we will eventually need it to support our case. Instead of getting a professional plumber to come and actually fix his mistakes, he's just poking and prodding at the hot water pipes, literally, and pretends as if he has any idea what he is doing. My boyfriend insisted that he get a certified plumber to come and fix this massive disaster. And the landlord just complained about money and says that we should do it, as if we haven't already done enough. The landlord just complaining the entire time and even said, if you don't like it, just move out. I am almost certain that the landlord was aware of what was going on with the plumbing in the building before we moved in. Due to the fact that all the tenants before me dealt with the same high hydro bills and have made complaints before, but they were all old and probably did not know that it was wrong or what to do. Likely my landlord's favorite kind of person. Since my boyfriend and I are having a hard time showering and washing the dishes with no hot water, we turned the hot water back on, meaning at this point, we are carrying the entire load for the building again. My question for all of you: what do I do now? Can I trust my landlord to solve this issue on his own, even though his plumbers will likely be rehired to do the work if we do? 2. What happens to all the money that quite literally went down the drain for this, and is still currently going down the drain? 3. Do I need a lawyer? Thanks to all of you again, you have helped tremendously. Edit. Thanks to all of you who commented last night. Unfortunately, the comments got locked before I could even reply to any of you. I'm working on contacting some lawyers now and calling the tenant board on Monday. Reddit is awesome. We seriously get crap done on here. Now, there is no more updates to this story, but I feel like if I read a comment or two, maybe we can get some advice. Fool Me Thrice says, now you take your landlord to the LTB. You apply today, even if he promises you he will fix it. The LTB can order him to hire a qualified plumber to repair the issue. The LTB can also order him to reimburse you for the extra hydro. You don't need a lawyer for this process, but you do need evidence. So, for example, something from the hydro inspector about what he found. Then hydro bills from before and after you aren't heating everyone's water, to show the difference, of course. You may want to consult a lawyer or paralegal about how best to put together your evidence and arguments. And That's What Happened says, he's all done stealing from you now. If he gets you to move, he can increase the rent and rip someone else off. There are cheap paralegals who do landlord and tenant board work. You don't need a real lawyer. Just get a solid paralegal and sue the pants off this jerk. I guess I'll have to do that. So much negligence. And I'm gonna guess that's what happened from here. We won't know unless they post another update in the future, but this was posted a year ago, so who knows. Anyway, on to our next story, by Efficient Emergency, titled, "A clothing company I used to work for is now sending me a cease and desist letter for using designs they rejected, in Michigan, intellectual property law." So I used to work for a clothing company, and I submitted several designs to them they rejected and never used. I have since quit and started using the designs I made myself that they didn't use. Recently, they have contacted me threatening with a cease and desist. This is what my employment contract stated about non-compete/confidentiality. Each party, on its behalf and on behalf of its subcontractors, employees, or representatives, or agents of any kind, agrees to hold and treat all confidential information for the other party, including, but not limited to, trade secrets, sales figures, employee and customer information, and any other information that the receiving party reasonably should know as confidential, and protect the information with the same degree of care as each party uses to protect its own confidential information. The parties intend that, to the extent the deliverables or a portion of the deliverable qualify as a work made for hire within the definition of Section 101 of the Copyright Act of the United States, it will be so deemed as a work made for hire. Confidential information does not include any information that at the time of the disclosure or thereafter is lawfully obtained from publicly available sources generally known by the public, other than as a result of a disclosure by the receiving party or its representatives. None of the designs were made on company time or on company computers. The designs I'm currently using were designs they asked for when I started as a baseline for my work. They said if they liked them, they'd consider using them, but they never expressed interest in them. What can I do? Low Effort Jingle says, just because they didn't use the designs doesn't mean they don't own them. Just because you didn't use their computers doesn't mean you do own them. You would need an attorney to review your contract in full and ask the questions about the nature of your employment to receive a really thorough opinion as to whether or not their claimant has a merit. A cease and desist is a request, not a legal document. If you do not cease and/or desist, then they may sue you. The letter signals intent to do that. If they do sue you, you will absolutely need an attorney to defend you. And OP says, the problem I'm really seeing here is that it feels like a grey area. My contract was ripped straight from Fit Small Business, and says nothing about intellectual property or ownership of work. The quote in the post, the extent of it, whatever that means. They didn't pay me for the time they used to create said designs, so I'm kind of at a loss here. And now onto the update. I brought this up to a lawyer and they laughed. I made the designs before I started there on my own computer on my own time. They had no legal claim to them, and they were just trying to bully/strongarm a 19-year-old designer. My lawyer sent back some type of legal letter, and they immediately apologized, and said that any designs I didn't specifically make for customers were mine and mine only. My lawyer said something along the lines of, they can't afford this type of suit, as they're a mum and pop type of company. Lawyer did it free of charge. All worked out in my favor. And our last post by user Hiploy38. Bought a PS4 from Walmart, box had books in it and they won't exchange/refund it. Consumer law. A few days ago, my wife snuck out to Walmart to buy our son the only real thing he's been asking for, a PS4/Spider-Man. Today they are off running around, and I figured I'd take the time to get it updated, set up an account, and pay for any subscription that it may have, etc. Open the box, and it has books in it where the console should be, and a copy of a sticker where you should see the S/N that's glued to one of the books. Great. I take the receipt and head off to Walmart to explain and get a new one. However, nope. I talked to everyone at the store, from the CS desk to several managers, and they refused to exchange/refund the console. It was paid for in cash. Wife is a waitress and used tips, so I can't just talk to my bank about getting a refund. What can I do? I know this must be a common scam people do, but we're victims here, and Walmart refuses to exchange it or even refund it. I offered to accept store credit/gift card, but even then they said no and told me to leave. Whoa. Call corporate number. You may ultimately have to sue. I did. After about 20 minutes of menus, I received a message this department is closed for the holidays. Called again, and got someone who then transferred me to the same place, and that is closed. Walmart is only closed for a day or two of the year, and Christmas is one of those. Their corporate office is likely closed already. Wait until after Christmas. Let's see what happens in the update, shall we? So now on to the update. Ever since discovering right before Christmas that the PS4 Spider-Man combo my wife purchased for our sons had books in it and took it in to get a new one, it's been an extremely annoying and stressful time. I took the advice of everyone and called corporate. Talked to corporate in their online chat, every way possible, and it's always the same answer. We stand behind the decisions of our salaried managers. Corporate literally do not care and shifts it to the salaried manager's decision. So I've been back to the same Walmart 4 times to talk to them, and the last time about 2 weeks ago, they said they would call the cops. I wasn't yelling or causing issues. I just want the PS4 my wife purchased for our son for Christmas. So the last time they called the cops, they came and the manager says right in front of me, I believe this man has been trying to scam us since Christmas Eve, claiming his wife had the books in the box. Cop gets my story and says, well, there really isn't enough to do anything against me. Manager dislikes this that I've been constantly dealing with, and I get permanently banned from the store. Just that particular one. He can't ban me from all properties, but said he will be calling corporate. I again try to call corporate, and nope. The same exact replies that they stand behind their salaried manager's decisions. So what's the outcome? No PS4, no refund, because it was purchased with cash, and I cannot do a chargeback. If you are ever purchasing anything expensive from Walmart, open the box immediately after purchase, and in front of the employee. Merry Christmas, Walmart. What a lovely sour note to finish this episode on, guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. Anyway, tell me what you thought about this episode down in the comments down below. My brain just had a fart. Merry Christmas in March, guys. Love your faces, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.